She walked through the door 40 minutes after she left for her date, still in her heels, mascara slightly smudged, and dropped her purse on the kitchen counter like it had personally disappointed her. I looked up from the couch, controller still in my hand, and said the only thing that made sense. That was fast. She didn't laugh. She just stood there in the doorway for a second too long, and then she said the sentence that ended one version of our friendship and started another one entirely. I kept comparing him to someone down the hall. I'm Owen Castellano. I'm 29, and my roommate, Reese Holloway, had been living with me for 2 years by that point, ever since her old lease fell through and mine had an empty second bedroom, and neither of us thought too hard about what it meant to move in with someone we'd only known through mutual friends. It worked out better than either of us expected. We split grocery bills, argued about whose turn it was to take the trash out, watched the same trashy competition shows on Sunday nights with a bowl of popcorn between us like it was some kind of sacred ritual. It was easy, comfortable in a way roommate situations rarely are. I never let myself examine why it felt that comfortable. Reese was 27, worked in marketing for a nonprofit, had a laugh that carried through the whole apartment, and made me smile even when I couldn't hear what was funny. She'd been seeing a guy named Marcus for about 3 weeks. Nothing serious yet, but serious enough that she'd spent almost an hour getting ready that night, standing in the bathroom asking me if the green dress or the black one made her look like she was trying too hard. I'd said the black one, mostly because I didn't trust myself to have an opinion about the green one that wasn't complicated by things I hadn't said out loud. She left around 7 for dinner reservations downtown. I settled in for a quiet night, half watching a video game walkthrough, half scrolling my phone, doing the thing where you tell yourself you're relaxing, but you're actually just waiting for a text that confirms everything is fine. At 7:40, I heard her key in the door. "Reese," I called out, sitting up. "You're back early." She came around the corner, kicked one heel off, then the other, and leaned against the wall like her legs had just decided they were done for the night. "Yeah," she said. "I am. Bad date." She thought about that for a second, like the question deserved more consideration than a simple yes or no. "Not bad exactly," she said. "Just wrong." I set the controller down. "What happened?" She walked over and dropped onto the couch beside me, closer than she usually sat, close enough that I could smell her perfume, the one she only wore on nights she wanted to feel a certain way about herself. "Marcus is great," she said, objectively. "He's funny. He's successful. He asked good questions. He actually listened when I talked instead of just waiting for his turn to talk. On paper, tonight should have gone really well. But," I said, because there was clearly a but coming. "But I spent half the dinner doing this thing in my head," she said, staring at the blank TV screen instead of at me. Comparing everything he said to how someone else would have said it. Comparing the way he laughed to the way someone else laughs. Comparing how it felt sitting across from him to how it feels sitting across from someone else on our couch on a random Tuesday night eating cold pizza. My chest did something complicated. "Reese." I kept comparing him to someone down the hall, she said, finally looking at me. "And it wasn't even close, Owen. It wasn't even a competition. Marcus never had a chance, because I spent the whole dinner wishing I was somewhere else, wishing I was here, and I couldn't even fully admit that to myself until I was sitting in the cab home. The apartment felt very quiet all of a sudden, the kind of quiet where you can hear your own pulse if you pay attention to it. "Someone down the hall," I repeated slowly, even though I already understood exactly what she meant, and I think some part of me needed to hear her say it more clearly before I let myself believe it. "You, Owen," she said, and her voice cracked a little on my name, like she'd been holding it together until that exact word broke something loose. "I mean you. I've been sitting across from Marcus for 3 weeks trying to convince myself this could go somewhere, and every single time, some part of my brain is doing this quiet math comparing him to my roommate, and I finally got so tired of losing that argument with myself that I asked to leave before dessert. I didn't say anything right away. I don't think I was capable of it. 2 years of careful, deliberate not noticing collapsed all at once. Every Sunday night on the couch, every argument about the trash, every time she'd leaned her head on my shoulder during a scary movie, and I told myself it meant nothing, because meaning something would have complicated everything we'd built. Say something, she said, and now there was fear creeping into her voice, the kind that comes from admitting something you can't take back. I've been doing the same math, I admitted finally. For longer than I want to tell you, honestly. Her eyes came up to meet mine, wide, a little disbelieving. What? Every time you brought a guy home, or talked about a date, I told myself I was being a good roommate by being happy for you, I said. But I wasn't happy, Reese. I was doing exactly what you just described. Sitting here comparing every guy you mentioned to some version of what it would be like if it were me instead, and then feeling guilty for thinking it, because you're my roommate, and roommates aren't supposed to sit around doing math like that. How long? She asked quietly. I thought about it honestly instead of giving her some easy answer. Probably since the week you moved in, if I'm being fully honest with myself for the first time. Definitely since the night you had the flu and I stayed up until 3 a.m. bringing you soup and watching you sleep on the couch because you were too weak to make it to your room. And some part of me thought, I could do this every day and never get tired of it. Reese was quiet for a long moment, and I watched something shift across her face, relief maybe, or disbelief, or both at once. I thought I was insane, she finally said. I thought I'd built this whole fantasy in my head about my roommate because I was lonely and you happened to be convenient and close by. I kept telling myself that wasn't real, that it was just proximity messing with my head. Maybe it started as proximity, I said. I don't think it stayed that way. She pulled her knees up onto the couch, turning to face me fully now. Marcus texted me on the way home, she said. Asked if I got home okay. He's a genuinely good guy, Owen. I feel terrible for leaving early. You should probably tell him the truth, I said. That's not really my business to weigh in on, but I think he deserves better than being the guy someone left dinner early to go compare against her roommate. I already know what I'm going to tell him, she said. I just needed to say the actual thing to you first, in person, before I could let myself close that door for good. Why? I asked, even though some part of me already suspected the answer, the same way I'd suspected a lot of things over the past 2 years and refused to look at them directly. Because if I told him it wasn't working and then came home and you looked at me like none of this mattered, I think that would have broken something in me, she said. I needed to know if what I felt sitting at that dinner table was real before I gave up something that was actually good for the possibility of something that might not even want me back. It wants you back, I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected, considering how hard my heart was working against my ribs. It's wanted you back for longer than either of us has been honest about. Reese let out a breath that sounded like it had been held for weeks, maybe longer. This is going to change everything, she said. Living together, all of it. If this doesn't work, we can't just go back to easy Sunday nights and splitting the grocery bill like nothing happened. I know, I said. I've thought about that a lot, actually. Whether risking this apartment, risking us as roommates, was worth risking something bigger. And I think I'd rather risk losing the easy version of us for a shot at something that actually matches what I've been feeling, I said. Because pretending has gotten exhausting, Reese. I'm tired of being the guy who's happy for you when you leave for dates with other people. She reached over then and took my hand, the same hand I'd offered her soup with at 3 a.m. all those months ago. And this time neither of us pretended it meant nothing. I'm going to text Marcus, she said. Tell him the truth, that it's not fair to keep seeing him when my head's somewhere else entirely. Okay, I said. And then, she continued, looking at me with something steady and certain in her expression that I hadn't seen from her all night. I think you and I need to have an actual conversation about what happens next. Not roommate conversation. Real conversation. I like that, I said. She sent the text to Marcus right there on the couch, short and kind and honest, the kind of message that respects someone even while disappointing them. Then she set her phone face down on the coffee table and looked at me like she'd just closed one door specifically so she could finally walk through the one that had been standing open the whole time. So she said, "What now?" I reached over and brushed a piece of hair back from her face, something I'd wanted to do 100 small moments over 2 years, and always talk myself out of. Now, I said, I think I finally get to stop doing math in my head every time you mention someone else. She smiled. The real one. The one that used to make me smile without knowing why. Good, she said, because I'm done losing that argument to a guy who never actually had a shot. We didn't kiss that night. It felt too big, too fast, the kind of moment that deserved more care than adrenaline and a canceled date could offer. Instead, we sat on the couch until almost midnight, talking through 2 years of things we'd never said out loud. The flu night, the Sunday shows, every small moment that had quietly been building toward exactly this without either of us admitting it. 3 days later, on a Friday evening that felt considerably less complicated, I asked her to dinner, an actual date this time, reservations and everything. And when she opened her bedroom door wearing the green dress she'd asked me about that first night, I finally told her the truth. The green one, I said. It always should have been the green one. She laughed, and that laugh still carries through the whole apartment, except now I know exactly what I'm smiling about when I hear it. We're still roommates, technically, though that word feels almost funny now considering everything it's grown into. The Sunday shows are still on. The grocery bills still get split, though we argue less about whose turn it is to take out the trash, mostly because now it just feels like something we do for each other instead of a chore we're keeping score on. Sometimes she still brings up that night, laughing about how she nearly ordered dessert out of politeness before finally admitting to herself she'd rather be anywhere else. Best bad date I ever had, she says. Technically my best date too, I tell her, even though I wasn't even there. So tell me, if you were sitting across from someone new and realized you kept comparing them to somebody already in your life, would you have left early like Reese did? Or would you have stayed, finished dinner, and let the moment pass? Have you ever realized the person you were measuring everyone else against was closer than you thought? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.